Headphone: The Quiet Steps of Growth. A story for English learners. Hello and welcome back. I'm Tom, and this is Hypnotic English, your place to truly unlock the English language. This special episode is a long, immersive listening and shadowing practice designed to train your ear, mouth, and mind to think in English naturally. It's a gentle, hour-long story about the quiet power of change, courage, and personal growth. The language is deliberately slow, clear, and simple, making it perfect for beginning and intermediate learners. My advice? Just relax. Find a quiet corner, take a deep breath, and let the rhythm of the story wash over you. You can listen many times. Feel free to repeat the sentences aloud, or even shadow my voice if you like. This is not a grammar drill or a vocabulary list. It's a story, and stories are the most powerful way to absorb real sentences, real feelings, and real conversation flow. If you enjoy this journey, please show your support, hit that like button, subscribe to Hypnotic English, and share this lesson with your friends. Your support helps us create more meaningful content like this. Ready? Let's begin. Music. A new chapter begins. My name is Tom, and I am 30 years old. I live in a small, quiet town right by the sea. Every morning, I wake up early. I open my window, inviting the fresh, cool air inside. The sky is usually soft and pale. I love mornings. They always feel like a promise of a new start. I make a cup of tea, find my spot by the window, and watch the sun slowly rise. Today, however, is truly special. It marks the first day of an entirely new chapter in my life. For many years, my life was a loop. Work, home, dinner, sleep, repeat. It wasn't unhappy, but it certainly wasn't exciting. I felt like a small boat constantly moving in circles, never daring to sail out onto the open sea. I knew I needed to grow. I wanted to become someone stronger, calmer, and kinder. So I made a small, powerful promise to myself. I will say yes to new experiences. Starting today, I will try just one new thing every single week. Success or failure doesn't matter, only the act of trying does. I smile at those words. They are simple, yet they feel incredibly powerful. I know growth isn't an overnight event. It's built slowly, one small step at a time. As I finish my tea, I feel a mix of nerves and deep excitement. Something is shifting inside me, and this time, I'm ready. 2 small actions. For the first week, I choose something very simple: walking to work instead of taking the bus. It wasn't a huge change, but it felt different from the first moment my feet hit the pavement. The morning air was crisp. I felt the wind on my face. The streets were quiet, and the sky was a pale canvas. As I walked, I began to see things I had always missed. There was a small bakery on the corner, and the delicious smell of warm bread poured out the door. A ginger cat stretched lazily under a wooden bench. A father and his little daughter were walking ahead, laughing about a shared secret. These were small, ordinary moments, but they felt extraordinary because I was present. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't glued to my phone. I was simply walking and seeing the world. Maybe beautiful things are all around us every day. Perhaps we just need to look more closely. The walk was longer than I expected, and my legs soon felt tired. I almost stopped to catch the bus, but I remembered my promise. Don't give up too quickly. I kept walking. With every step, I felt a little stronger. The road seemed to shorten, and the morning grew brighter. That's when a quiet voice inside me said, "This is how change begins. One small step at a time." When I reached the office, I felt wide awake. I decided to try a second new thing, talking to Anna. Anna is a colleague I often see, always reading interesting books in the lunchroom. I had always wanted to speak with her, but shyness held me back. "She's too busy, she won't want to talk," my mind would whisper. Today I tried. I walked over, smiled, and said, "Hi, Anna. That book looks interesting. What's it about?" She looked up and smiled back. "Oh, it's about a woman traveling alone across Asia." "I love stories about travel," she replied. We started talking. At first, my voice was a little shaky, but soon the conversation flowed naturally. We talked about books, places we dreamed of visiting, and our favorite foods. I discovered she was kind, funny, and incredibly easy to talk to. Later, I realized something vital. Most of my fears were just shadows in my head. They looked big and scary, but the moment I faced them, they simply vanished. When I walked home, my body was tired, but my heart was light. I had done 2 new things. Small actions, huge meaning. That night, I wrote in my notebook, "Today, I took 2 steps forward." I felt the air, saw the world, and spoke without fear. Change begins with simple choices. The wisdom of Samuel. The next morning, I walked again. I noticed even more. The sound of leaves, the smell of cafe coffee, the way the sunlight hit the rooftops. I waved at the father and daughter, and they waved back. Small steps don't just move us forward. They change the way we see the world. One evening, I decided to walk home along the sea. The sun was setting, the waves moved gently, and the air was filled with the smell of salt. It was a perfectly peaceful evening. I noticed an old man sitting alone on a wooden bench. His face was lined with deep wrinkles, but his eyes were bright, warm, and calm, as if he had seen everything and was at peace with it all. Curious, I sat down next to him. He turned, smiled, and said hello. His name was Samuel. He was 80 years old and had lived in this town his whole life. He told me he came here almost every evening to watch the sea and simply think. "The sea is my oldest friend," he said, laughing softly. "It teaches me something new every day." I asked what he meant. He pointed at the water. "Look at the waves. Sometimes they are soft, sometimes they are wild and strong. But they always keep moving. Life is the same. It changes. It teaches us patience. It teaches us strength." Then he spoke a line I'll never forget. "We grow when we listen, to others, to the world, and to ourselves. Most people talk too much and listen too little. But if you listen, truly listen, life will show you the way." I sat in silence after he spoke. The sound of the sea felt deeper, and the wind seemed to carry a message. On my way home, I reflected. I often tried to control everything. My plans, my future, my success. I worried about every mistake. But maybe growth isn't always about control. Maybe it's also about trusting the process. Trusting that life knows how to guide me, if only I pay attention. That night, under a sky full of bright stars, I wrote, "Today I learned to listen." I learned that wisdom often comes quietly, the courage to speak. From that day on, I started practicing listening, not just with my ears, but with my heart. I listened to the rain, the children's laughter, and the silence of the night. But most importantly, I started listening to myself. I listened to my uncomfortable thoughts, my sad feelings, and my deep fears, not to run from them, but to understand them. I began to understand myself more deeply, noticing my patterns and what brought me joy or stress. I learned to be gentle with my own emotions. Listening became my daily habit, a way to connect with the world and with who I truly am. 2 weeks later, I chose something that absolutely terrified me: public speaking. At work, we have a small team meeting every Friday. I usually stay silent. This time, I raised my hand and offered to share a short idea for a new project. My heart pounded. My hands shook. "You'll make a mistake. They will laugh," the fear voice screamed. But I remembered my promise: step into discomfort to grow. I stood up and spoke. My voice was soft at first, but it gained strength with every sentence. I shared my idea clearly. When I finished, the silence was broken by my manager smiling and saying, "That's a great idea, Tom. Let's explore it further." A warm wave of pride washed over me. Not because the idea was perfect, but because I had found the courage to speak. I wrote, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing something even when fear is present. When we face it, even in small ways, fear loses its power over us." The teacher of failure. Not everything I tried went well. And that, I learned, is part of the journey too. 1 month into my promise, I took a painting class. I had always admired art, and I secretly imagined I had a hidden talent. The reality was different. My first painting was a mess. The colors fought. The shapes were unclear. Even the teacher looked confused. For a moment, I wanted to quit. I wanted to say, "This is not for me." But I remembered, I didn't promise to succeed, I promised to try. I kept painting. The second was bad. The third was slightly better. The fourth one made me smile. I learned a crucial lesson. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It is part of growth. Every mistake is a teacher. I wrote, "I failed today and I am grateful for it." Failure is a teacher too. I also realized I was often too hard on myself. I wanted to change quickly and grow fast. One evening, looking in the mirror, I asked, "Why am I not better yet?" Then I remembered Samuel's words. You should not shout at a flower and tell it to grow faster. You should give it water, give it sunlight, and give it time. Growth needs patience, care, and kindness. I wrote myself a letter, forgiving my mistakes and thanking myself for trying. I promised to treat myself with compassion, just as I would a good friend. The next morning I felt lighter. Being kind to myself is not weakness. It is strength. It gives me the energy to keep growing. The cycle continues. Growth is not a solo journey. I learned this when I started volunteering at a local community center. We cleaned a park and planted flowers. I met people of all ages. We worked, talked, and laughed together. One woman told me volunteering helped her find friends and purpose. Her words stuck with me. Growth is not just about becoming the best version of ourselves. It is also about helping others grow too. I wrote, growth multiplies when shared. The more I give, the more I grow. Sometimes, growth means letting go. I found an old notebook from 5 years ago filled with unfinished plans and dreams that no longer mattered. I felt a moment of sadness, but then I realized, it's okay to outgrow old dreams. The person I was 5 years ago is not the person I am today. I threw the notebook away. I watched the waves erase my footprints in the sand. Letting go is like that. It makes space for something new. I wrote, I let go of old dreams, old fears, and old expectations. And now I am ready for what comes next. A quiet transformation. It's now 3 months since I made that first promise. I've learned that true growth often happens in silence. One Sunday, I spent the whole day alone. No phone, no internet. At first, my mind was restless. But slowly, the inner noise began to fade. I sat, watched the clouds, and listened to my own breathing. In that quiet, I asked myself what really matters to me, not what others expected. I wrote, silence is not empty. It is full of answers. I also learned the power of patience through running. At first, I could only run for 5 minutes. I wanted quick results, but my body said no. I kept going. 5 minutes became 10, 10 became 20. 3 months later, I ran for an entire hour. It wasn't magic, it was small steps repeated again and again. Patience is not waiting for things to happen. It is trusting that small actions will lead to big change. Today, my life is not perfect, but there is so much to be thankful for. I started a new habit, writing 3 things I am grateful for every night. This gratitude deepens my perspective. My journey is a story, not of perfection, but of growth. The seasons change, and so do we. It was spring when I started, now it is fall. I watch the trees let go of their leaves, preparing for new life. I realize the person walking in this park now is not the same person who felt stuck and afraid. I am calmer, braver, and I trust life more. Change is not something to fear. It is a sign that we are alive. My friends, as you finish listening, remember this. Growth is about trying, step by step, day by day. Trust your pace. Celebrate your small victories. Learn from your mistakes. And never stop walking. Thank you so much for listening to Hypnotic English. I'm Tom, and until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself.